Welcome to the Cryptonomatron and another ICO review for you today. It's of TE-Food. So what is the TE-Food ICO? Well, TE-Food is the world's largest publicly accessible farm-to-table food traceability system, and they want to move to blockchain and tokenization. They are reinventing food supply for the emerging markets. So TE-Food is already a successful food traceability solution, and it's used by 6,000 plus companies, managing more than 400,000 transactions each day, reaching over 30 million people. They are dedicated to improve food safety, fight off corruption, support fair trade, and build trust between the food supply chain companies, consumers, and authorities in the emerging markets. They believe that building a sustainable business on food safety is much more efficient to make a difference than any type of aid. So who are their competitors in the space? Well, TE-Food consider those solutions as indirect competition, which provide food traceability for supply chain, and they are Provenance, which is apparently a blockchain-based food a traceability program, the IBM Hyperledger in association with Walmart, Ambrosus, Food Logic, who I don't believe are blockchain based, Harvest Mark, Wabi, who just recently had an ICO and are producing RFID labels for protection against counterfeit goods such as baby milk and other harmful items, Modem, and INS, which were a direct grocer to consumer ICO that I believe is still running. So the problems they intend to solve are food frauds and mistrustful supply chains, which actively take advantage of the consumers, public health risks due to food safety, and the overuse of antibiotics in food animals. They also want to tackle migration that's caused by climate change, and low VAT revenue but high VAT rates from governments. And they want to tackle economic inequality, because often farmers or agricultural people in the agricultural trade are some of the lowest paid in the land. So for example, just in an average November, and I got this from a tweet and a Facebook post that they put up earlier, 49,000 kilograms of mislabeled fish were found in Italy. Horse meat was found in 10% of Mexican beef, and if you recall, that was also an issue with some European countries as well. 1 million euros worth of fake organic fruits were found in Sicily. 14,000 bottles of counterfeit Australian Penfold wine were discovered in China. 2,300 kilos of chili powder in India was diluted with sawdust and dyed with textile colours. 17 tons of fake olive oil was found in Greece, and it was sunflower oil that was dyed with a green dye or food colouring. 800,000 litres of olive oil with substitute content was found in Brazil. So we can see the problems are massive. The scale of the problems are massive. So food traceability is going to be one of the biggest issues in the 21st century. So the aims of TE-Food are, and this is from their white paper, although the main goal of the token sale is to raise funds for international market expansion, they plan to replace the current decentralized transaction ledger with a blockchain-based structure. They also plan to extend the current functionality of the system, which will have a great impact on the sales possibility of TE-Food. So, they want to make the food industry more transparent. They want to democratize the access to food-related information as a common property, so everybody will be able to view where the food has come from. They want to enable technology to become the authority. So technology will take over from people that are manually checking things, therefore removing corruption from the transactions. And they want to reduce the scale and effect of epidemics and food frauds in emerging countries all around the world. They also want to educate people through incentivizing conscious consumer behavior. There we go, get there eventually. And they want to help small farms to be more competitive. So let's take a look at the technology. Now, this technology they already have and are implementing on a centralized system, and they're going to move to a blockchain system soon, and we'll go through that in a minute. So they already have these security seals, label stickers, RFID tags, paper bags, and scale labels with the barcodes, so you can trace whatever it is, wherever in the supply chain the foods are. They also have a business-to-business mobile app, which is multilingual and optimized for low-end phone use, so no high processor speeds required. And using the app is role-based, so each role, for example, in a farm or a slaughterhouse, has its own processes, menus, and functions to take care of the particular requirements of that role. And the functions will focus on the logistics, food safety information, identification tool management, and authority tools as well. So the mobile phone app uses the camera to read the 1D or 2D barcodes to identify items of livestock, transport, or food product as part of the process in each role. They also have some back office tools. They have the standard interfaces, which TE-Food is open towards companies with third-party logistics or traceability solutions, so they'll implement those. Traceability information can be sent to the system through standard interfaces. Supply chain companies, which have their own identification tools, can request identification serials through an API. And they will also have reporting tools, so supply chain participants automatically get daily, weekly, and monthly reports with tables and charts about their activities. They also have a business to customer or consumer mobile app. So besides the supply chain members and the authorities like the governments and those people that implement rules, TE-Food is transparent towards the consumers as well. So they've introduced this mobile app to read QR codes yourself, so you can actually view the history and the characteristics of the fresh food they intend to buy. So you'll be able to read and verify the QR code with your phone, read product history, and learn more about the suppliers. And the mobile app is currently available for Android and iOS systems. So they will also implement digital signage. So digital signage for further customer convenience. The TE-Food provides solutions for retail to display traceability information. So you will have a little barcode, QR code on the price tag or whatever at the retailer, so you can actually use your phone to display where the food has come from and know the history. A self-service terminal solution helps consumers without mobile phone to read the QR codes on the product and display food history. So they've even thought about people that don't have mobile phones, they will still be able to view the history of the food. They're also integrated with Zalo.me. I'd never heard of this before, but apparently Zalo is the most popular messenger platform in Vietnam. It enables 60 million users to view the product history through the Zalo mobile app. And they are developing currently a livestock registry. So as part of the food safety tools provided to the authorities, the local and regional governmental authorities, etc., the livestock registry and management solution will enable national or local authorities to get certain regular status report from the farms. Now this is a fantastic idea. It means that they don't have to come down and visit with a clipboard. They will get updates on their app, up-to-the-minute updates that allow them to see compliance is being maintained. And from basic livestock inventory information to sales, export reports, etc., the system provides a wide range of information. To provide the necessary data, farms need to download an easy-to-use mobile app, which we've already discussed, or connect their systems to the TE-Food API if they already have their own system implemented. So fantastic, they've got solutions for every eventuality, which I like to see. In the second phase, the system will be extended with an AI-based smart pandemic forecasting and alarming module to provide authorities tools to prepare for and to limit the effects of potential outbreaks. So another concern here is obviously outbreaks where food safety is affected and people's health then at risk. So they are going to implement an artificial intelligence-based smart forecasting system that will be able to warn the authorities of any potential issues when they are notified. And the farm management mobile app will be implemented too, and this will improve the competitiveness of smaller farms. Whoa, hard to get my words out today. We provide an easy-to-use mobile app-based farm management application, which is integrated already into the TE-Food business-to-business app. Now, this is being worked on at the moment, I believe, and it will have modules for inventory, feeding, vaccination, all the information that you would like to know as an authority. Currently, the farm management tools consist of the core modules, which also help providing food safety data in the traceability process. Now, they plan to broaden the functionality of this to reinforce the engagement of farms and help them operate a more sustainable business model. And as we can see on the left-hand side, the current status of what TE-Food already provide to where they're going to go in the future. And we'll discuss the future plan developments right now, but let's just recap on the current status. So they have the traceability tools, they have the consumer tools including the app, they have the farm management tools working on the app at the moment, they have the livestock registry, the centralized transaction ledger, which will move to a blockchain decentralized system in due course, and they already have implemented a tokenized payment system. So the planned developments will include the decentralized transaction ledger, which will gain additional credibility by a blockchain-based transaction and food information ledger. They will develop food safety sensor tools, which by mitigating the supply chain debates by measuring and logging the environmental conditions of transported livestock and food. Another interesting development. They will also implement a marketplace to gain new markets and improve engagement by providing a business-to-business livestock and fresh food trading possibility for the supply chain, so businesses can interact on their own with the marketplace. They will also provide extended food categories, gaining into new markets by extending TE-Food to track and trace cattle, fish and seafood, fruits and vegetables, and animal antibiotics even. So whatever industry and category they're not already involved in, they're already looking to expand. Other planned developments, and I thought this was an interesting one, include animal face recognition. And we could see there on the right, the picture shows a pet. Some apps are already trying to implement this new technology for pet recognition. So if your pet goes missing, you can find it again and identify it. So they want to gain new markets by implementing this with identification of cattle, for example, without any physical identification tool. So you'll be able to use a mobile phone with the app to take a picture or view the cattle's face and then recognize it accordingly. Interesting. So they're already operational in Vietnam and elsewhere. The current traceability volume is as follows. They trace 10,000 pigs per day, 200,000 chickens per day, 2.5 million eggs per day, and as we just mentioned, they're looking to move into cattle, fruits and vegetables, arables, fish and seafood, and the animal antibiotics itself. So they're already used by over 3,000 farms, over 3,000 livestock agents, 70 slaughterhouses, 35 food producers, 25 vets, 30 wholesale markets, 190 wholesale distributors, 2,600 retailers and markets. So the product is already being used, and already these companies and distributors will be finding use for the TE-Food system. And some of the customers include some of these here. It might not be familiar to you, those of you who live in the West, but those of us who live in the East will be familiar, certainly, with a lot of these. In particular, I know Big C, they're a supermarket chain in Southeast Asia, quite popular. Aeon, again, another department store chain. And some of the others I recognize from Vietnam. Vinmart, 7-Eleven competitor from Vietnam. So CP Group as well, up at the top left there. They are a big poultry producer. But as you can see, a lot of coverage for custom at the moment. So why do TE-Food need a blockchain system? Well, they need one because the data provided by the supply chain participants must be unmodifiable. And this means that in order for it to be effective, then they need the blockchain system to stop people inputting manual data that can be changed or corrupted to get around the system or make more money or whatever the desire is. So the blockchain will effectively cut that down. Because the data in the system is a common property of all participants, it must be stored in a shared distributed ledger to provide transparency. And this is a great thing because you'll be able to use the app yourself to see where your food came from, where it's been. Because the food safety related data all over the world is a property of all of us, and data accessibility must be public and democratic, which I fully agree with, and everybody shouldn't have a problem with that. Because economic inequality is one of the largest social problems, and we need a technology which helps to create a fair access to data, know-how and income. As I mentioned earlier in the video, generally there is a big disparity between people working in agriculture in the developing world and people in other sectors. So they want to address economic inequality by bringing this technology to bear. Because corruption is a global economic problem, and the food sector in emerging countries is one of the most affected sectors. Now, corruption is a global problem. It is more prevalent in developing countries, simply because the checks and balances are not there. So a blockchain system will effectively address that immediately. Most of these countries will be going from a paper-based traceability system, which is very ineffective, easily corruptible, straight to blockchain, which immediately will get rid of most of the corruption in the supply chain. And incorruptible food history information leads to a transparent food supply chain which can make a difference in public health and literally save lives. And we know that from many food scandals, even in the West, even in so-called developed countries that are not using blockchain systems, they still have health scandals and public health problems due to the food supply issues, and in many cases people are still dying from it. So let's have a look at the token uses for the TEC or the TE-Coin. So it will be used as a toll. So what this means is you will use the token to use the TE-Food's blockchain traceability ledger. Supply chain participants will need to pay for transactions using the token. There will also be a value exchange of the token, and there is a lot of information provided by certain types of supply chain companies which is valuable for other supply chain companies. So the example here is, if and when a calf was treated with vaccines or antibiotics, it's a valuable information for the cattle farms which buy the calf. Now normally they don't have this information and they needlessly treat the animals with more vaccines and antibiotics, and this can lead to overuse of the antibiotics. If they can get this information for a cheap price, the cattle farm can avoid the redundant activity and thus save money. No more redundant spending. And this income goes to the information provider, which would be the calf farm. There will also be a further value exchange in that consumers will get the tokens as a reward for using the TE-Food consumer mobile app in retail. So reading the QR code and viewing the food history, this way it incentivizes conscious consumer behavior and use of the ecosystem. And this is great because by actively taking part at any stage as a consumer, especially at retail stage, you can get rewarded with the tokens, therefore making it valuable for you to use. And there will also be a right here where the token holders can rate supply chain companies with which they are in connection, so that the system can maintain a supply chain company scoring system. As we can see here, there is the model of how the tokens and coins are going to be used. So supply chain companies buy or sell their TE coins for fiat or cryptocurrency as they like. Supply chain companies can already buy transactions for the TEC coins. TE-Food will automatically sell 90% of the revenue for fiat or cryptocurrency. And consumers can sell their earned TE coins for fiat or other cryptocurrency should they desire. So you don't have to keep them, you will be able to use them at the exchange. TE-Foods will automatically award 1% of the income to support this conscious consumer behavior. So if you're actively using the app, as I mentioned, you will be rewarded. They will also reimburse 9% of the income to support farms. And supply chain companies pay each other for value-added information. So if you're a participant in the supply chain, a business, and you want more information, you can use the tokens to pay the other company for the information you would like. So let's have a look at their target markets. So their primary target markets are the emerging countries, as we've discussed. Now the reason for this is 65% of the food frauds, foodborne illnesses, and deaths happen in emerging economies. In many emerging economies, corruption is very strongly present in food supply chains. I mentioned it before, and it is a major obstacle in making the supply chains transparent. Supply chains in emerging countries lack any form of a traceability system, and there is a growing middle class in emerging countries, and increasing awareness amongst the population drives a growing demand for the consumer level product history insight. So complicated it may sound, but basically what it's saying is the bigger your middle class is going to be, the more demand for information, as the more aware you are of the importance of knowing where your food came from and to know it's safe. And emerging countries represent 60% of the world's population, and thus 45% of its gross domestic product. So the potential market, global food traceability market, will reach $15.1 billion by 2021. The compound annual growth rate of food traceability is the highest in Asia Pacific, 16.7% compared to the rest of the world, which on average is between 5.5% to 8.7%. So they have ongoing negotiations with potential franchise partners and reps in Laos, Malaysia, Cambodia, and South Africa. So we know now what they plan to do. We know what technology they want to implement and why. So let's take a look at the actual coin sale, the token sale, the ICO if you like, and have a look at the token itself. So on the left of this fact sheet is the token. The name is the TE coin, or the ticker TEC. And as we've discussed the utility already, there will be a total supply of 1 billion TEC. They will sell 400 million of these, 40% of the total, during the crowd sale. The list price of the TEC coin will be 5 cents. They will have a hard cap of $16 million, and the release of funds will be held in a multi-signature escrow wallet bound to roadmap accomplishments. There will be lockout periods for team members and other investors as well. So the public sale will start on the 8th of January 2018. It will end 15th of February, so just over a month. And there will be bonus levels depending on your participation. If you get in early, for the first week you'll get 15% bonus, second 12%, third week 10%, fourth week 5%. And there will be additional bonuses based on individual volume. So if you purchase over $100,000, you will receive 15%. 20 to 99,999, you will receive 10%. And if you spend over 5 but under $20,000, you will receive an additional 5% bonus. So the accepted payment methods during the ICO will be Ethereum and Bitcoin, and any unsold tokens during the public sale will be burned. Their allocation of the funds are as follows. They are going to spend 60% on market expansion, 25% on research and development or R&D, 10% on ongoing operational costs, and 5% on legal to comply with regulations and professional lawyers. The token distribution will be as follows. 40% will go to the general token sale, 25% to team and advisors, 15% will be held in general reserve, 10% will be for future partnerships, 8% will be for early investors, and there is a bounty campaign. I couldn't find much information about it, so I didn't include a slide on that. There will be 2% allocated to that as well. So the roadmap, is quite extensive. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time deliberating over it, but they started in Q2 of 2015. It was started by TE Limited in Vietnam in cooperation with Herba Limited in Hungary. And they signed an agreement with the government of Ho Chi Minh City to implement TE-Food. So preparations of the implementation started immediately after that. Moving through 2016, they launched for the pig and pork tracking in Ho Chi Minh City region. 2017 Q2, they started training staff members on basically farm and food safety and use of the system. Q3 2017, the chicken and egg tracking started in 22 Vietnamese regions, no less. And also a national livestock registry contract was signed with the Ministry of Agriculture in Vietnam. Moving quickly on. Q3, TE-Food International was founded, so they opened in Switzerland, and all TE-Food rights and contracts are transferred to TE-Food International. So from a locally based company having roots in Hungary and opening in Vietnam, they are now internationally registered in Switzerland, which I think is a good step forward for them. They then tokenized the TE-Food system in Q4 2017. The token sale, as we mentioned, will start, it says here in December 2017, that may have been pre-sale. The main sale will start on the 8th of January next year. In Q4 2017, the National Livestock Registration System started in Vietnam. In its pilot phase, the system with the mobile app-based client will be used in 21 provinces in Vietnam, including Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, to regularly report about the status of livestock. Next year, cattle tracking will be launched, so they will be adding cattle to their pork, pig, chicken and egg tracking. Fruit and vegetables will be launched as well. In Q2 next year, market presence in 2 additional countries. And Q2 2018, blockchain usage will be implemented in TE-Food. Blockchain is a traceability transaction ledger. Sorry, I'm getting my words all mixed up today. This is ridiculous. So they will implement the blockchain basically. And Q3, new developments will be launched. The animal antibiotics traceability, AI-based smart pandemic for forecasting, and the alarm modules, as we discussed, for the National Livestock Registration System as well. Q3 next year, the marketplace will be launched. And Q4, food safety sensor tools will be ready. The sensor-equipped tools log directly to the blockchain and contain smart locks which can be opened only by specific users and log their status. The extended farm management tools will be available after that as well. And they will include, as discussed, the inventory, feeding, vaccination. So more and more information going into the system. And in 2019, they will try to implement the animal face recognition. There will be market presence in 4 countries by Q1 2019. So let's have a look at the team. So they have 3 top-level management. 9 core team members, 8 software developers on the team as it is at the moment. The CEOs are Vietnamese and Hungarian. And looking at the team, having looked at their profiles on LinkedIn, there's no real standouts, but the team is technically competent, and as we can see, they're already able to implement. So they have 3 main partners. One of them is called GS1, which is a non-profit for global business communication, such as barcodes and things like that. Unisto, which is a security seal manufacturer, which will obviously be used to manufacture the labels. And as we mentioned before, Zalo.me, which is the free messaging and call app in Vietnam with now over 70 million users. So in the community, they are on Facebook, they are active on Twitter, they're on LinkedIn, they're on Bitcoin Talk Forum. They've only got 29 members on Telegram, however. They're on YouTube, and they have quite an active Medium blog site as well, which is very interesting, and you should go over and read that, find out all the information you need about this possible investment. So we've covered most of the main stuff. I didn't want to go into too much technical detail as usual. So what are my positives from this review? Well, first of all, they already have working products that are being used and generating revenue. As we can see, they are involved in 22 provinces in Vietnam. They already have cooperation from the authorities in Vietnam, and they are working towards implementing it in the whole country. They're also looking at having partnerships with other countries in the region and globally. The market is worth multi-billions. Everybody needs to eat. At one point in the future, everybody will want traceability for their foodstuffs, especially those people that have young families that don't want to take risks with where their food is coming from. So this is a really massive potential market. Traceability of food is still a major concern, especially in emerging economies, especially Southeast Asia. So and we've seen in the West as well. In the UK, I believe there was a scandal with horse meat going into frozen food products. So traceability is still a major concern, even now in the 21st century. This has a real world application and use. It's not a white paper ICO. They actually have the technology being worked on at the moment. They already have a system in place, although it is centralized. It will move to a decentralized blockchain in the near future, but they have a real world application for this. This isn't something that people may or may not use. This is being used already and will be used probably universally in the future. The team are already very experienced in this industry. Now, as I said before, when I briefly reviewed the team, there isn't any real outstanding people on the team, but I don't think that's too important in this this particular ICO, because they're already vastly experienced in what they're doing, and from looking at the documentation, you can see they know what they need to implement. There's been a lot of thought put into this, and this could be very successful. Remember, team is a crucial part of any ICO or any token sale, but it is part of the whole, not solely to be looked at. The other thing I liked about this ICO, they have a very detailed roadmap and vision. Everything has been thought of. If you look at the white paper, the roadmap for the future has been staggered, where they think they can implement quickest, but also it's very detailed in what they're going to do. They have a clear vision of how they're going to go about it. It's a very well written white paper as well. It tells you everything you need to know. It's one of the only white papers that I've reviewed that actually self-critiques and points out the strengths and weaknesses of their particular product and where they can potentially succeed or fail. And they have a great detailed blog on Medium, which I mentioned before. You need to go and read it before you think about investing in this ICO. It's very detailed. They spend a lot of time getting the articles there so you can find the information that you need to know. The other thing I like is there is going to be a token burn of unsold tokens. So there will be, any unsold ones will be destroyed. As usual, there are some negatives. So we don't have any blockchain implementation yet, which is a negative because we would like to have seen that before an ICO is launched. However, I do understand that they need to raise funds to implement the technology. The other negative that I noted was developing countries may not be too welcoming of blockchain technology. Now, you know, they're already active in Vietnam, but blockchain has basically a symbiotic relationship with cryptocurrency. And already ICOs have been banned in China, Vietnam, you know, and elsewhere. And there's talk of more countries banning them. And when governments or authorities hear about blockchain, they automatically will think about cryptocurrency. And of course, this ICO relies on its token for utility use within the blockchain ecosystem. So developing countries that don't fully understand the benefits of using blockchain may not be as welcoming as we hope, and also they may see it as a threat to their earning potential, because in many cases they rely on certain corrupt activities for additional earning. Number 3 on the negatives is this ICO seems to have low community support. There's not many people on Telegram. There's not many people following them on social media channels. However, that seems to be picking up, and let's hope that they can have, by the time the crowd sale goes ahead, let's hope they can have good, solid community support. Number 4, they have very ambitious plans, which as usual, I always point out, are going to be more difficult to implement than something that's very simple. So throughout this implementation of blockchain technology, there will be problems that arise that they have to get round, and that could be in any shape or form, from government interference to technical problems to team members leaving. Could be anything. So the more ambitious your plan is, the more difficult it is to implement. And number 5 is a negative. There is growing competition in this sector. Now, I will link to their blog below. It does highlight that they not necessarily in competition with ICOs like Wabi or Modem, but there is growing competition in this sector. So is it big enough for more than one company? I would say it is, but growing competition will not help adoption of this particular ICO. It will have to compete. Number 6, corruption in emerging economies may hinder adoption. I mentioned it briefly before, but corruption is a major, major problem. Now, the blockchain will basically, because it's transparent and immutable, it will stop corruption, and therefore a lot of companies, a lot of authorities may be hesitant to accept it because they won't get their bung or their backhanders. And number 7, there is a certain dependence. When you target emerging economies as your target market, then you've got a dependence on their governments. And as we know, in Southeast Asia in particular, governments tend to exhibit certain behaviours that may not be conducive to certain businesses taking root in the country. They're also liable to change, and therefore policy changes quite quickly, and this could be an issue if you're setting up businesses there. So finally, to my verdict. What do I think about TE-Food ICO? Well, I think overall a lack of community support at the moment lets down a great idea with a very high potential. There really is massive potential for this particular business, not only in emerging economies but globally as well. I give it 3.5 stars. If they had a better community, this would be a slam dunk ICO to get involved in. Let's hope that the community grows. I am going to invest in this ICO. I think I see the potential in it longer term. I don't think it necessarily is one for people that just want to flip and make quick money. I think you may have to sit and hold your investment until the community is established and potentially more business is established. But as I've already pointed out, there's a huge market for it. There's a real world use case, and for me, I think they can deliver. So I'm gonna actually invest in this. I like it, I had a lot of fun doing this ICO review. I must admit, it wasn't the easiest one to do. You know, the problem is when you do these, how long do you spend on them? You know, we're already, where are we, 20 minutes, 25 minutes into the review. I tried to be as concise as I can, but point out all the pros and cons as I see them. So if you've got any comments, as usual, please leave them below. I'd like to hear from you, see what you're thinking. As ever, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not investment advice. Please, if you're going to invest in anything, invest cautiously, invest wisely. Always do your due diligence. Always do your own research. Don't rely on people on YouTube, because there's a lot of differing opinions. Do your own, rely on your own opinion, guys. Yeah, I like this one. You might not, but thanks for watching. Please leave a like and please subscribe if you've not done so already. And I'll be back tomorrow with another news video and hopefully another ICO review or another token to watch.